So there's a YouTube user by the name of Shock of God. He is an ex-atheist. He is currently a Christian, and he has made a challenge to all atheists, and the challenge goes like this. Atheists, prove that atheism is true and accurate. Now, a lot of people have already done really good responses to this. DPR Jones did a great response. Coughlan 666 did a great response. By the way, Coughlan's account was suspended once again. If you want to subscribe to his new channel, I've linked to it down below. So, Shock of God, your challenge is that I, as an atheist, must prove to you that atheism is true and accurate. But first I have to say something to you, Shock of God, and this is something you probably don't know. For an atheist like me, or you know, any other atheist really, just pick an atheist out of a crowd, proving that atheism is true and accurate is easy. It's simple. It is the simplest affair possible. It is a walk in the park. It's a breeze. The hard part is getting Christians or Muslims or Hindus or whoever to acknowledge it. It's not that we can't prove it, it's just that you won't accept the proof. Because you're not really interested in learning anything. Of course you're not. You're here to bolster your belief. You're only interested in posing the question and then ignoring all valid responses and then saying, see? No one could answer my question. And whatever, dude. That's fun. It's all good. It's all cool. It's all right. But you know, Shock of God, I'm a stupid guy. I'm stupid because I believe that maybe I can change your mind. I believe when I turn this camera on and I start talking to it, that just maybe you'll listen to reason. I mean, you didn't listen to reason from DPR Jones, you didn't listen to it from Coughlan 666, but maybe you'll listen to reason from me. And I have no reason to believe this, so really, it's an article of faith. It's my faith in humanity. And I keep thinking my faith in humanity is going to go away. It's going to leave because I've just been disappointed too many times. But it just persists like a malignant tumor, ruining my life by whispering things in my ear like, maybe you could change this radical Christian's mind. Wouldn't that be cool? But hey, enough blabbering. Let's get to your challenge. Prove that atheism is true and accurate. Did you know, Shock of God, that I own an invisible T-Rex and it can't be touched? So it's invisible and it's ethereal, but I have it. A giant, invisible, ethereal T-Rex. I own it. What's that? You don't believe me? Well, can you prove that I don't own it? Can you really prove it? No, you can't, because it's an unfalsifiable hypothesis. You know what an unfalsifiable hypothesis is? It is a hypothesis that cannot be falsified. Fairly simple. It means that you cannot disprove it. There is no scientific test that you could set up that would prove conclusively that my invisible, ethereal T-Rex doesn't exist. Now, I could make any number of unfalsifiable statements. I could say that the universe was created by dolphins, or that rocks are intelligent beings, but they're just encumbered by their lack of mobility. Or I could say that I can fly when no one is looking, you know, and you can't disprove any of this. No one can. That's the great thing. No one can disprove any unfalsifiable hypothesis. Now, the belief in God is an unfalsifiable hypothesis, okay? Does that mean that it's false? No. That just means that we cannot disprove it. So, no atheist can disprove a God whose properties are up in the air. Because no matter what evidence you find against it, people can always come up with some other reason. You know, if you search every square inch of the entire universe and you find God nowhere, Someone could just say, well, maybe he lives in an alternate dimension, or maybe he's invisible. So a deistic God whose properties are completely unknown to us is an unfalsifiable hypothesis, but a God whose properties are known to us is a falsifiable hypothesis, and the Christian God's properties are known to us. Now, the Bible, which is the sole basis for the Christian religion, says that God created the universe 6,000 to 12,000 years ago, depending on which Christian scholar you ask. This is false. We know from radiometric dating, from the distance of stars and the amount of distance that their light has to travel to reach the Earth, and the rate of expansion of the universe, that the universe is billions of years old, not mere thousands of years old. The Bible says that the Christian God created man from the dust and woman from man's rib, and he created all the animals in one day, and we know that this is not true either. Animals and humans, and really humans are animals, emerge through a gradual process of genetic mutation, adaptation, mate selection, and so on and so forth. What is commonly known today as evolution, which a lot of Christians, probably like yourself, don't believe in, but it is a scientific fact. You choose not to accept that, but whether or not you accept it really has no bearing whatsoever on it being true. The Bible says that disease is caused by demonic possession, because this was in the days before we knew about viruses and bacteria. The Bible says that God is responsible, personally responsible, for rain and earthquakes, and God thinks the earth is flat. We know now that the earth is round, and we know about plate tectonics, and we know about evaporation. We know why it rains. We know why it quakes. We know that we are living on a round planet. But the Christian God didn't know this, despite the fact that he is supposed to be all-knowing. His knowledge was limited to the knowledge of the humans of his day. Isn't that awfully peculiar? In other words, shock of God, we now know that many of the natural phenomena that we once ascribed to God can now be explained through purely naturalistic means. We understand how this stuff works. It's like when you're a little kid and you ask mommy or daddy how the Coke machine knows what soft drink you want, and they just tell you that there's a little man who lives in there who, throws your drink down to you when you need it. Believing in God after you already know how this stuff works is kind of like still believing in that little man who lives in the soda machine after you know that it's really just a bunch of machinery in there. So the Christian God is not real. Does that mean atheism is right? Well, no. Like I said before, there could still be a deist God, but where's the evidence for him? I really see no compelling reason to buy into it, shock of God, but I can think of at least one good argument against it. We look at this universe and its grandeur and we say, wow, this is so complicated. How did this come to be? And someone says to us, well, it was created by a being even more complicated than the universe itself. Doesn't that naturally lead you to then ask the question of where this complex being came from? The deist hypothesis seems like it's trying to solve a complex riddle by presenting humanity with an even more complex riddle with no real basis, with no real reason to think that that's how it happened. So, shock of God, I was lying in the beginning of this video. I can't prove that atheism is true and accurate. I can only prove that your specific God is absolute bullshit. So even though I can't prove that atheism is overall true and accurate, I can prove that in the case of your desert God, your spooky Yahweh, your Christian Lord, Jehovah, whatever you want to call him, He doesn't exist. So, as far as he's concerned, atheism is absolutely true and accurate. And I do find it kind of funny that so many of you religious folks of all denominations, of all religions, are always asking atheists, like, you must prove atheism! And we say, oh, well, can you prove your religion? And your response is, no, but I have faith. I have Jesus in my heart and I believe. Well, that's pretty fucking stupid. As far as I'm concerned, shock of God, atheism is the position of cosmic humility. It's looking at the universe and saying, I don't know how this got here, but I'm not buying into any of these superstitious explanations. I am going to wait for a real answer, even if I die before the real answer is known. You're not willing to do that. You're not willing to wait for something substantive. You want a quick, easy, simple answer, and you don't care if it's wrong. And I understand that. I understand that it's psychologically gratifying to walk around acting like you understand something, but you don't. It's an illusion. You're lying to yourself, and it's really sad. But if that's what you want to do, far be it from me to tell you not to. I'm the Amazing Atheist. Peace the fuck out. Love you guys. By the way, if anyone out there is a fan of my long, ranting videos where I don't make any sort of concise point, but just kind of blather on incessantly, then go subscribe to my other channel, TJ Does Life. I just posted a 43-minute video on it recently where I cover a plethora of topics, none of which make any sense to anyone but me, but they're still fun, so go ahead and subscribe to that because it's sexually attractive and it will make your teeth whiter.